Veterans Voices is sponsored by Lori Miller, Independent Health Insurance Agent, and the South Carolina Stingrays.
Hello, and thank you for joining us for our News 2's Veterans Voices special. I'm Brad Franco.
And I'm Sophia Arzosa. Today we want to highlight the men and women who took the sacrifice and served our country.
We begin by talking with someone who is literally living history. He's perhaps the last living Buffalo soldier.
His name is Steve Lewis. At 97 years old, he remembers very specific details of his time in the military, his time in college, and exactly where he was the day Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. Rod Carter has our story.
Retired Army Corporal Steve Lewis is living history.
I was in 12th grade when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor.
The 97-year-old Manatee County veteran vividly remembers the day that changed America forever.
It was on Sunday. And I didn't, so it says Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, and we didn't have, during that time, we didn't have no TVs. We had a radio.
Although after Pearl Harbor, Lewis enrolled at Florida A&M College in Tallahassee, now FAMU, a country at war meant studies took a back seat.
Every man in college had to be in the enlisted reserve corps.
Eventually, he was assigned to the 9th Cavalry, one of two black cavalries known as the Buffalo Soldiers. The all-African-American groups started during the Civil War. Their service, though, lasted until 1948, when President Harry S. Truman integrated the military. And by the early 1950s, they were gone.
And we didn't know a thing about no Buffalo Soldiers in the Army.
Okay.
We never heard it.
Mr. Lewis may be the last living Buffalo soldier around. He remembers his duties well.
You man was assigned a horse, and you had to take the horse. When you're ready to go out, you ride the horse, bring him in, wash him down, clean him up, feed him, then you go eat.
Ralph Barnett is putting together a documentary about the Buffalo Soldiers.
In spite of the huge swath of American history that they cover and their importance in American history, the story has never really been told.
Mr. Lewis is going to be a big part of that film.
They don't give it the publicity it needs.
For Veterans Voices, I'm Rod Carter.
Because Mr. Lewis was college educated at the time, he was also assigned to be a morning reports keeper in the Army. After his service in the military, he worked for many decades in the Manatee County School District, teaching, among other things, agriculture, science, and reading. At 97 years young, he's still very active in his fraternity, Kappa Alpha Psi. He attends every meeting, and the building where they meet is named after him.
Inside Patrick Ryan's home, he proudly displays hats, pictures, medals, and a small model of a landing craft similar to those on which this now 94-year-old Navy veteran carried American troops in 6 different invasions. Among them, Sicily, Okinawa, and Normandy. 75 years ago, his landing craft loaded with roughly 30 soldiers. Patrick says the first wave headed right to the beach. Patrick struggled with heavy seas and unrelenting enemy fire.
In the water, bullets hitting, popping up, and some of them hitting the front. You could hear them, bang, bang.
Mr. Ryan says most of the people he knew made it out of the war all right, but like thousands of other D-Day veterans, he's never gone back to Normandy and has no desire to do so. He says he thanked God he made it out alive and said he'll leave it at that.
It may be one of the best kept secrets in Virginia, the Army's Transportation Museum. There are dozens of neat old Army vehicles housed there, but more importantly are the stories behind them and the people to tell them. Don Roberts introduces us to a World War II veteran who did some pretty special things while piloting boats for the Army.
Well, I was drafted. Yeah, working on the farm with my father.
Former Army Chief Warrant Officer 3 John Gregg remembers details from 74 years ago as if it were yesterday. In 1945, the Army drafted Gregg while in high school in the no-traffic light town of Wilmar, Arkansas. Several months later, he was 8,000 miles away in the Philippines, a member of the nearly all-black 24th Infantry Regiment.
There were about 300 colored troops, which was how they were referred to back then.
And we started training on ducks in the middle of 47.
Greg piloted duck boats, the Army's version of a floating truck in the Korean War, and he remembers coming under gunfire while crossing a river.
The enemy opened up on us with small arm fire from the beach. Well, thanks to the infantry we was carrying, so they opened up with their weapons from our ducks. And we got one duck hit pretty bad.
In 1966, Greg completed warrant officer school as the first black deck warrant officer and captain of an Army landing craft utility boat.
We had 12 U-boats, 12 Army captains. I'm the only black, 15-man crew, all white. The good man, and I found out later that I knew my job, and now they worked hard. They'd do anything for me.
Greg captained 100-foot tugboats and a 300-foot fuel tanker before retiring in 1973. Home life, he and his wife Ann ran a daycare and school in Hampton. They raised 3 children of their own before Ann died in 1989. And now at 92 years of age, Chief Warrant Officer 3 John Gragg, retired, looks back.
Well, I had a wonderful ride. I had good days and bad days, more good than bad.
For Veterans Voices, I'm Don Roberts.
Dogs can be more than just a loyal pet. Coming up, we tell you how some pets help veterans every single day.
The transition from military to civilian life is challenging for many veterans, but a bakery in Washington, D.C. is working to ease that transition one scone at a time. Dog Tag Bakery serves as a living business school for wounded veterans, their spouses, and their caregivers. Its mission is to help provide a recipe for success for veterans making the transition into the civilian workforce. The participants enroll in a 5-month program where they receive an education at Georgetown University and real-life work experience at Dog Tag Bakery.
Where we really start investigating and dipping their toes back into education, this entrepreneurial mindset, as well as understanding what the workforce looks like. But really at the end of the day, we're trying to help them rediscover their purpose and rediscover their voice.
According to the Defense Department, more than 250,000 service members leave the military each year. She says their #1 request is for employment assistance.
Dogs can be more than just a loyal pet. For some members of the military, they can help with everyday tasks. Christine Ueno has the story of a veteran who has a new outlook on life thanks to his 4-legged friend.
John Seeley spent 28 years in the military, serving in places like Vietnam and Schofield Barracks on Oahu. But it was after retirement when he was faced with a new battle.
I'd never heard the word before, and you know, it's really a disease of the nerves.
In 1988, he was diagnosed with peripheral neuropathy.
I don't have balance. My balance is lousy, and I really need 3 points to connect or I lose my spatial orientation.
3 years ago, Seeley was introduced to his 3rd point, Eli, a Labradoodle assist dog.
Brace Eli. And when I'm sitting in a chair, a low chair, and I can't get up. You know, I position Eli in front of me, and he understands that this is the brace position there. And then I really push down on him to stand up.
Their relationship didn't start out this way. Seeley originally agreed to train Eli from Hawaii Fido service dogs to help someone else.
Some of the other dogs, once they get older, will go on to other skills as needed, depending on the individual, opening up doors, taking laundry out of the dryer, taking your shoes or clothing off, depending on what the individual needs.
Susan Lewers created this accredited program 20 years ago. They've placed over 150 dogs, including nearly 20 to veterans. She said one of the top requests is assist dogs who can help with PTSD.
I can tell you that if I didn't have Eli, if I lost Eli today, there would be a void in my life.
For Veterans Voices, I'm Christine Ueno.
Coming up, we introduce you to a veteran who's defying age by dancing. He says that while he is dancing today, he also had his dancing shoes on the ship as well. We'll tell you his story coming up next. The military can take you all over the world and allow you to experience things you may not experience anywhere else. Retired U.S. Navy Senior Chief Petty Officer Andy Sutter learned that when he started his military career at the age of 19. He left New York and headed to the Naval Station in Norfolk, Virginia, the largest naval base in the world. During his 26 years in the military, he provided security for service members at sea, flew Navy hovercrafts, and was on board the USS Ashland during an attempted terror attack in 2005.
Missile went over and missed the ship. It hit the building. It killed a Jordanian officer. They were pulling the high-value asset out, which was the Kearsarge, and they left us there in case we had to take fire.
Sutter now runs the Freedom Boat Club in Portsmouth, Virginia. He says he couldn't be happier to work on the same waters every day where he once trained to serve our country.
It's the resting place of more than 1,100 American sailors and Marines killed during the surprise Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. Every year, nearly 2 million people visit the USS Arizona Memorial to pay their final respects. About 40 staff members and numerous volunteers work daily to care for the memorial. Recently, several large groups of volunteers, including Navy personnel and their families, helped get the memorial ready to reopen after king tides damaged the dock.
And together those 130 or so individuals contribute about $20,000 in labor to the rebeautification effort out at the USS Arizona Memorial. That included painting the entire interior of the memorial and parts of the exterior, removing rust, polishing the stainless steel rub rails and handles out on the memorial.
Volunteers are just part of what's necessary to maintain the memorial, so this landmark and the lives lost are always remembered.
A 92-year-old veteran says he has no plans on slowing down anytime soon. Every Thursday night, you can catch Angelo Rico cutting it up on the dance floors around Richmond, Virginia. His story is part of our continuing series, Veteran Voices. Carrie O'Brien reports.
With every step and every turn, this dancing 92-year-old World War II veteran is proving age is just a number.
It keeps me active, you know, my legs moving and so forth.
Watch out, old Angelo, he's back. Watch out now. Because every Thursday evening, you can find Angelo Rico dancing in the deli at Pado's in Innsbruck. The Navy vet says he's always loved to dance.
That was my career in the Navy.
That was your career in the Navy?
Yeah, I used to dance a lot when I was ashore.
That's why the lady is a tramp.
I'm here twice a month, and it's a wonderful place. This is a veteran outfit, and here there's a lot of veterans.
Thank you so much for your service.
But Angelo's kind of special. He is like Fred Astaire, and the girls love him.
I'm hearing the ladies love your dancing. Are you a ladies' man?
No, I don't project myself as a ladies' man. I like to dance, and they're very hospitable that way.
So, of course, I had to ask, could I have the next dance? Would you dance with me to this?
Carrie and Angelo.
This vet can certainly twirl me off my feet. For Veterans Voices, I'm Carrie O'Brien.
Coming up, getting a war story or two with your morning cup of Morning Joe. I'll tell you what's extra special about one coffee shop.
Ladies supporting ladies. This group of women didn't sign up to serve their country, but their sons and daughters did. The Blue Star Mothers of America is a network of more than 6,000 women supporting each other before, during, and after their children serve their country. The women send care packages, support veterans organizations, and befriend one another during a child's stressful deployment. The chapter in Richmond, Virginia is one of more than 200 in the United States.
You come together here and we listen to each other and we get it. And it's just that understanding that isn't often provided out in the real world.
The Blue Star Mothers of America has chapters all over the country. Type in your city on bluestarmothers.org to find the group closest to you.
In Hampton, a Navy veteran has taken her military skills and applied them to running her own business. As a woman and a veteran, she's seen as an anomaly, and that's something that she's hoping to change. Marilena Belores shares the story of determination and persistence.
There's something about a coffee shop that pulls you in. It might be the tasty drinks or the cozy couches. Here at Sweet Beans, it's the smiles you'll see behind the counter.
I'm so sorry, we're just talking.
This coffee shop is Mallory Ruggs' passion project. Nearly 10 years ago, Mallory started working as a barista when her husband first enlisted in the Army. She loved it.
I said, I just figured out what I want to do for the rest of my life, and I know I don't want to work for anyone else doing it.
But first, she felt called to serve and joined the Navy in 2012.
I was a fire controlman, I was a spy technician.
That's when she met her friend, Heather Amadeo.
Her husband and I had the same job. And
their families became close.
We would sit on the front porch and I would tell her about my dreams and I was gonna make it happen. And she goes, yeah, that sounds amazing. Like, I'd love to do that. I go, yeah, you should do it with me. And then they got stationed in Hawaii.
But as luck would have it, both families wound up in Norfolk in 2017.
She's like, all right, I'm gonna ask you a really important question. I was like, okay, what is it? She goes, are you serious about the coffee shop? I was like, yeah, I am. And then we hit the ground running.
Mallory finished her enlistment, but still works on base as an instructor. The two women got to work.
It was so much harder than I anticipated. I wasn't prepared for how every single bank would want something different in the business plan.
It would be endless nights of just working on the business plan, working on what we needed to sell, how we were gonna sell it, and it was just hair pulling sometimes.
But finally, they got a loan and they found this spot not far from NASA Langley. They opened in May and already have loyal customers, some who are surprised to hear their story.
When they come here and they're surprised by two factors all at once. They're one, they say, are you the owner? And we say, yes. They're like, oh. And then they find out that I was in the military and they're like, really? Both of those things? So it's really funny to have that conversation. And once they find out about those, then it starts this really great conversation.
As a female and veteran-owned business, Sweet Beans is somewhat of an anomaly.
There's still kind of that idea that a woman veteran is different, you know, and with her and with Heather, there aren't very many pair of women that are stronger than those two.
But they believe that stereotype is changing.
In a normal division, you have a couple women to 20, 30 men. So, I mean, I understand why there is a stereotype. However, I look forward to being able to break that stereotype.
Mallory and Heather are determined to help other women, giving them advice on how to start their own businesses.
If you are so passionate about something and you feel like you have something that you can sell, then exhaust all outlets.
Paying it forward.
It's a very empowering feeling knowing that we were able to help somebody else make their dream come true.
Using their training, their story, and their voices to inspire female veterans and beyond. For Veterans Voices, I'm Maria Elena Boloris.
A special place where veterans can just go to get away. We'll take you there right after this next break. A disabled veteran in Virginia has dedicated his life to serving other disabled vets. Each month, James Howard hosts a disabled veterans retreat along with his nonprofit Veterans and Athletes United. He spent years renovating his home to be accessible. At the retreats, they eat, they fish, they just enjoy being around each other who get it. This retired Army Ranger says it helps to have a day away, whether vets are working to recover or learning a new normal after an injury or illness.
Being around others and seeing how they may do things. You know, I don't have any hand function, but I find ways to pick up cups or you know, do different things, close doors, and it's the little things you pick up on and you learn from others that I think are most important here.
Retreats like these happen in both Virginia and North Carolina, and all disabled veterans are welcome.
Toby Yarborough's military career came to a crashing halt after he was severely wounded during a 2002 deployment. He was on a mission to recover a front-end loader in Afghanistan when it shifted and pinned him down. He broke his back in 3 places and suffered a traumatic brain injury. He returned to American soil and shelled out $40,000 for the very animal that would save him time and time again. Duke is a 140-pound German Shepherd, and that's why Toby has made it his mission to match veterans with their service dogs.
There's my baby. There's my lifesaver. I mean, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have done a lot of stuff, like meeting 2 different presidents of the United States. I got pictures with him with 2 different presidents.
Toby wrote a story about how Duke impacted his life and called it a quiet healing. That book is now an award-winning documentary.
Thank you for joining us for this very special show to honor those who have fought for our country.
You can catch all of these stories again and more at counton2.com.